are you like this?
Excuse me? Why am I like this? You don't know me, dude. You don't know what I'm like. Look what you made me do, jag off. Uh-oh.
What happens after we die is something we all have to think about at some point in our lives. In 2016, resident short cousin Michael Schur took this idea and created The Good Place, a show that explores the afterlife in fun and creative ways.
There's a lot of frozen yogurt places.
People love frozen yogurt. I don't know what to tell you.
It's not the only one, but there's a reason you don't see many people talking about Miracle Workers or Upload as much as people talk about The Good Place. The show is really good. I don't know what you'd expect from the man who worked on The Office, Parks and Rec, and Black Mirror. Wait, what was that last one? But like any good thing, it's not perfect. And I want to be clear, this is not going to be a long essay nitpicking the show. Like many people, I like The Good Place. I was one of those annoying friends that would send DMs saying,
Excuse me, ma'am, do you have 2 minutes to talk about
The Good Place?
Nailed it.
but it's always good to be mindful of when a show is great and when it's not so great. And it goes without saying, there's going to be full spoilers. If you haven't checked out The Good Place yet, you should. It's complete and relatively easy to find on most streaming services these days. If you're on the fence, maybe this video will convince you to check it out. The show's writing is strong enough that you can enjoy it even if you already know what's going to happen.
Somebody royally forked up. Somebody forked up. Why can't I say fork?
And if you disagree with anything I say, you can come back and let me have it in the comments. So, let's dive into The Good Place, starting with Season 1. From the opening scene alone, it's apparent how different The Good Place is from Schur's previous work. The mockumentary style is gone in favor of more traditional camera work. The change isn't just aesthetic, it's a good visual indicator of what sets the show apart from its peers. Most sitcoms thrive on being character-driven. Whatever overarching plots there are don't really matter that much. We're mostly here for the situations and interactions of the characters.
Damn, Rosa, where'd you get that?
The Good Place switches things up by placing a little more importance on overarching plots. Instead of the plot being more in the background, it's about as important as the characters and the humor. The Good Place leans a little more towards Silicon Valley
Shirt.
and DuckTales than The Office and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. The first season's plot is about our main heroine, Eleanor, discovering two things.
There's been a big mistake. I'm not supposed to be here.
But she wants to earn her spot there.
Something we can do unless you could teach me
Teach you what?
how to be good.
What really makes Season 1 work is that it's simple. Almost every event in the season, both the mundane
Get more of them shrampy.
Easy.
What? For everybody, right?
and the zany, come from using the simple premise in funny and creative ways. Because the premise is so simple, there's more time devoted to fleshing out each of the characters. And our main character, Eleanor, is a fantastic character. This season does a wonderful job at establishing who this dirtbag is and paving the way for the person she could become.
Hi there. Do you have a second to talk about the environment?
Do you have a second to eat my farts?
You missed.
Pick it up.
Eleanor might not be a good person, but a terrible person who wants to become better is the kind of arc that draws people in. And there's more to her than just character development. Throughout the show, she gets to show off everything from her wacky side to her intelligence
Holy mother-forking shirt balls.
and compassion. The good character writing extends beyond the main character as well. The supporting characters in this season are well written and have straightforward roles in the story. Tahani is the super rich, super nice, ideal person in contrast to Eleanor.
Bitch, but do come and sit down.
Jason is a dumb, but nice wildcard that also doesn't belong in the good place. Chidi is a straight man that encourages the growth of everyone else,
I'm in a perfect utopia, and I have a stomachache.
and so on.
Oh, what the heck? This is actually the very first neighborhood that I have ever designed.
Hi there. How can I help you?
What the fork? Who are you?
I'm Janet. I'm the informational assistant here in The Good Place.
Not only does each character work well in the role they're given, but they're fun to watch. They bounce off each other naturally, and it's fun watching them interact with the neighborhood through the season. A lot of the best parts of season 1 are the characters bonding with each other as they deal with all the problems in the neighborhood. And if there's one constant throughout the show, it's the humor.
Well, that's terrifying.
Unlike The Gas Leak Year and other sitcoms, the show never really loses steam in the humor department. There's good recurring gags,
Condescending bench. Motherforker.
Get the fork out.
What are we? Werewolves, not squirrels.
and character-based humor like a traditional sitcom.
Dude, GD is giving you a lifeline right now and you need to take it. Because you suck.
You suck.
I know.
While I personally don't think it quite hits the highs of other sitcoms, it's another element of the show that helps tie everything together. The show wouldn't be the same if it were dead serious all the time. Another defining thing about the show is how it integrates philosophy into the story. It's a lot like an adult version of Sesame Street, with some episodes beginning and ending with philosophy lessons.
Here's the perfect test. There's something fun that you want to do, and then there's something less fun that people are doing for the common good.
The self is a key subject for a lot of great thinkers. In the
I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
While it can be a little corny, it's mostly inoffensive and usually integrated in humorous ways.
I made the trolley problem real so we could see how the ethics would actually play out.
It's cute for people whose only exposure to philosophy comes from a fortune cookie. When you look at the first season of The Good Place, it's really impressive how much the show juggles all at once. In only 13 episodes, you get afterlife lore,
Welcome to eternal mediocrity. Welcome to the media place.
character building, and character backstory,
You need me to lie to old people and scare them into buying fake medicine. I get it, man.
all while the plot moves forward in fun and engaging ways. Each episode adds something interesting or meaningful.
Hey, I love you, man.
Michael, the problem in the neighborhood is me.
All the way to the end. And by the final episode, we're hit with what people remember most about The Good Place Season 1.
They're never gonna call a train to take us to the bad place. They can't. Because we're already here.
This is the bad place.
Like any great twist, it's one that makes complete sense in hindsight. When you go back and rewatch the show, it's super obvious how much of the neighborhood is designed to annoy the humans. Some of it is more subtle than others.
What's a food that people think they enjoy, but that's also kind of a bummer?
Frozen yogurt.
But you can see it's been there from the beginning, hidden in plain sight. Even the actors were blindsided by the final episode.
This is the bad place. Oh! And you all turn to Michael and...
Some viewers can even make the hard read early on and figure it out, but the show does a good job at moving quickly enough so that you either ignore the thought or think about something else instead. It's especially fun to go back and watch Michael, who we now know isn't a kindly architect, but a demon. Episode 7 is when his facade drops for the first time, and you can see that for the next few episodes, he's scrambling to keep everything under control. A lot of people cite Season 1 as the best because of the final twist, but I don't think that's a fair assessment. It's still good even when you know the twist, because the writing is good throughout the season. The entire season is built on the simple premise and the gradual journey into that final episode. The other 12 episodes are just as important as the last one. Season 1 of The Good Place comes pretty close to a perfect 10 out of 10 season of TV. The plot is engaging from start to finish. The humor is consistently sharp and entertaining, and the character relationships, romantic and otherwise, are great in this season. Keyword, in this season. Obviously, there's a lot more worth talking about in a little more detail, but we'll get to that in a jiffy. There's genuinely something for everyone here. If you like sitcom humor but don't really watch plot-heavy shows, or if you like shows with interesting plots and don't really care for comedies, you can find something to enjoy. It balances all the moving parts exceptionally well, and the combination of plot, characters, and humor
In preparation for your trip to the bad place, please put on these fedoras.
are among the reasons the show really took off in its first season. Even the best sitcoms can't brag about that. Shoutouts to all 3 fans of Parks and Rec Season 1. So, Season 1 of The Good Place ended on a really strong note. The jig is up, but the characters are faced with a new problem. Can the gang come together and figure everything out a second time? As for the show, can it match the high bar it set for itself? Well, only one way to find out.
Because you know what, Michael? You may say.
following up such a solid first season is no easy feat, especially since doing full resets of entire character arcs and plotlines doesn't always pan out. Rebooting the cast isn't the only risky writing change. In season 1, Eleanor is the character who starts at rock bottom and grows into a better person. But in season 2, the character we watch grow is the actual demon, Michael.
If Chidi can't take a joke, that's on him. Just like all that blood was.
Michael was mostly a supporting character in season 1, which makes sense considering he's supposed to be the season's hidden boss. We only get his true personality for a handful of scenes, but in this season, we get the full extent of who he is. It's cool that a lot of his quirks in season 1, like his enthusiasm for humans,
Aren't paper clips the most amazing things in the world?
Yeah, sure.
weren't just a part of the act. He's both a massive dweeb and a devil that gets a kick out of torturing the others.
Let's try again.
Like Eleanor in season 1, he's a character that goes through the most development through this season. And speaking of Eleanor, season 2 is the beginning of her friendship with Michael, and their relationship is the best one in the entire show.
Did I stutter?
They had moments in season 1, but considering the circumstances, any friendship that formed wasn't exactly genuine. This isn't the case in season 2 since Michael is now able to be himself around the others. They're fantastic characters on their own, but what really makes it work is that they're designed to be parallels to one another.
One of us is a manipulative demon who's an expert at making other people miserable, and then the other one is me!
They go through similar arcs, with Eleanor becoming a better person in season 1, and Michael becoming less demonic throughout season 2. And it's apparent throughout this season, and the rest of the show, that these two really get each other.
Eventually, Chidi will get over it.
Leaving it up to the other person to be the grown-up. Yet another classic shell-straw move.
Whenever they chat, there's mutual understanding as the human and demon simply talk about how they feel and push the other to become better, compared to some guy always whipping out his college textbooks for a solution. Every time Michael and Eleanor get one-on-one time throughout the show, it's equal parts funny
Them!
and endearing. Alrighty, I talked a little bit more about the characters, but like I mentioned earlier, in The Good Place, the plot is always still pretty important. Season 1 thrived on using a simple premise in creative ways. While the final episode does recontextualize the season, it still revolves around the simplicity of Eleanor's character arc. Season 2 switches things up by adding a little more to the simple formula.
Sorry, the door was open, so I just came in. Did you just say I'm in the bad place?
Attempt 109.
Michael takes Eleanor's place as the character with the main arc through the season, but the main plot this time is the team dealing with whatever challenges stand in their way. For most of season 2, the main threats are the Bad Place demons, namely Vicky,
Angelique is a hack. I can act circles around her.
It's an actor.
Not an actor.
I know a thing or two about acting.
and Sean.
So random. Okay, bye.
But towards the later half, the main conflict is finding a way into the real good place. If that sounds a little more complicated, it's because it is. But just a little. A lot of what made season 1 good, like the character progression, the humor,
It's Chinese for Japan.
and clever plot lines, are still here in season 2. Depending on what you like, I can see a lot of people enjoying season 2 as much, or a little more, than season 1. But season 2 is about when you start to see the cracks forming. The writing is still exceptional, but you can see a lot of the issues that will go on to plague the later seasons. One aspect that made season 1 work so well was its simplicity, and season 2 goes beyond this with additional creative plot lines, in addition to managing a lot of character stuff.
Hi there.
Hello.
I purposely glossed over a lot of it just because it's better to discuss a little later. Season 1 did a wonderful job at balancing all its moving parts and making them work, and season 2 is very much the same, but it's balancing a little more this time. Keep this in mind, because as creative as season 2 is, it's nothing compared to what we see next.
Someone who's not an eternal being, please explain to me what the
If there's a word to describe seasons 3 and 4 of The Good Place, it's ambitious. And that's describing a show that was already pretty ambitious. Each season introduced new elements of this insane universe. Demons, hell, God.
What's up, guys?
You get the idea. It's one of the cooler parts of the show. And it doesn't stop there. The show throws more of the universe at you in seasons 3 and 4. It's really easy to get caught up in details that largely do not matter. Some people might take issue with how the show handles its lore, but I'm not one of them. I won't pretend every piece of the world building is airtight, but nitpicking the lore doesn't make for meaningful discussion. We would seriously be here all day picking apart how the show explains death, and time,
Jeremy Bearimy,
and so on. The show treats a lot of its world building as a joke anyways. There are better things to talk about. So, Season 2 ended with another reboot, but instead of another version of the neighborhood, our characters are brought back to life. It's a neat change that still retains the spirit of self-improvement we've seen in past seasons. Despite being more normal than the previous settings, it's still pretty fun to watch.
And I won $18,000.
Wow, that's amazing!
Better luck next time.
Of course, things don't stay so normal for long. Shortly after the gang gets back together, the plot shifts gears again. To put things lightly, there are about 4 main plots running through Season 3. Getting the gang back together, physically and emotionally. Saving friends and family from eternal damnation. Discovering the problems with the afterlife system. And then discovering a way to fix the system. And that's really dumbing it down. There aren't any huge issues with any of these plots on their own. It's a natural progression based on what we've seen so far. There's just a lot going on. This basically sums up how chaotic Season 3 can feel sometimes. And unlike Season 1 and 2, there aren't any linear character arcs that tie the season together. The characters do change and develop, but it's in this weird sort of
wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey,
roundabout kind of way. Technically, they've already changed. It's more like remembering their previous development. It's a neat way to do character progression, but I can see some people being a little annoyed by this point. The show could give Peter Parker a run for his money with how often the show reboots and reuses past arcs. The Good Place is at its best when it balances the characters, plot, humor, and so on in meaningful ways. Season 3 is when the balance sways a little more. There are still good character moments that tie into the main plot, like Tahani and her sister, and Eleanor visiting her mom and Forrest McNeil. Among others, of course. But just like before, the plot keeps moving forward. And strangely, Season 3's ending isn't that far from where previous seasons ended.
Come on in.
The gang has proof that the afterlife system isn't as perfect as the higher beings think it is.
Earth is a mess, y'all!
And now it's up to them to replicate their self-improvement with a new squad of humans. If they can make it work one more time, all of humanity is saved. But if not, all of humanity is doomed. What could go wrong?
I'm Eleanor. Come on in.
Season 4 opens with a twist on previous dynamics. Eleanor is now the architect in charge, and the cast are overseers to a new set of humans in a new neighborhood. The question of, can these new humans improve, is the driving conflict for most of this season. There's fun callbacks to Season 1.
Because this is the bad place.
And similar to Season 1, the strong parts of early Season 4 revolve around the character struggles and interactions. But unlike Season 1, there's a lot more going on, and not as much time. The plotline with the new characters takes up about half the season, and in typical The Good Place fashion, the plot jets forward with new plotlines in the second half. These are the main overarching plots in Season 4. The new neighborhood experiment, rescuing Janet from hell, fixing the bad place, getting into the good place, fixing the good place, and a conclusion for every character. When we get to the final episode, it ends on a really good note. Almost every single character gets some kind of happy ending, and it ends on an optimistic note for humanity as a whole. You couldn't ask for more in a show's ending. So, where does that leave The Good Place? You must have seen the video length. I've been mostly positive about the show because the show is really good. Good, but not perfect. I've purposely skipped over a lot because a lot of talking points fall under the same issues. And while the problems of the show are more noticeable in later seasons, I actually think you can see them as early as Season 1.
Holy mother...
The pacing in The Good Place is the single biggest issue that permeates throughout the show. What constitutes good or bad pacing is something that varies a little based on personal preference. Pacing is usually noticeable only when it's really bad.
Yes, 5 minutes before this planet explodes.
So I want to preface everything by saying that I don't think The Good Place has bad pacing, but the show's pacing varies from fast to too fast. It's not something you see often in TV. It's way more common to find shows that have really slow pacing. One of the biggest strengths of The Good Place is that the overarching plot keeps moving forward. Almost every episode adds new plot developments to keep us interested in what's going to happen next. The brisk pace works in season 1 and 2 because the plots are relatively simple. It's easier to balance characters' slice-of-life moments and the main plot when the plot is simple. The show does a lot in 13 episodes that are only about 20 to 23 minutes long. But as I outline the plots for each season, you'll notice the list got a little bigger each time. Just to recap, this is what it looks like altogether. Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, and finally, Season 4.
Oof. There's more.
And keep in mind, that's only the main plot lines. The list practically doubles when you include the subplots.
Oh my god!
Each season adds more plot lines, more characters, and still need to give the main characters some attention. The scope grew, but the episode count and length didn't grow with it. And the brisk pacing set by season 1 starts to feel less like a blessing and more like a curse. The pacing gets more noticeable in seasons 3 and 4, but you can sense it in season 2 as the final plot lines are wrapped up in only a few episodes.
I'm going to give each of you a test to see how much progress you've made. You're all going to the bad place.
When I called season 3 chaotic, this is what I meant. It speeds through multiple arcs in quick bursts through the season. Season 4 does the same, but it's backloaded in the last half instead of being spread out like season 3. The later seasons introduce creative plot threads that are so good, they could take up entire seasons on their own.
We try and help them be good people. Try and help them get in.
Now you are officially in charge of The Good Place.
Instead, they're introduced and resolved in like 3 episodes, sometimes in a single episode.
What is wrong with this place? I have a solution.
And because there's so many new plot threads, the characters work through them in what feels like no time at all. On one hand, I can understand not wanting to linger on plot threads for too long. But when problems are solved so quickly, they don't feel like they were even that big a deal in the first place. You'd be surprised how often the characters in The Good Place figure out a solution from a throwaway comment someone else makes.
That's it. We should speak to the manager.
Take the Soul Squad to the next level somehow.
You're right.
Like a game, you can't win.
That's it.
In most shows, this would be grounds for bad writing, but it's really just a case of there being too much to do and nowhere near enough time. The show needs to keep moving because there's always something that needs to be addressed. As it went on, the story expanded in a way that the original 13 episode length of seasons 1 and 2 couldn't keep up with anymore. Even a few more episodes would help give the plot some breathing room. And as you might expect, the pacing doesn't just affect the plot, it bleeds into the characters. I praised Eleanor and Michael's characters, but they have main character privilege. They always get something fun.
Look, my name is Zach Pizzazz. Nathaniel Cookswell, mate. Caterer to the stars.
Or interesting to do in every season, even when the season isn't focused on them. Michael constantly grapples with his demonic nature and is involved in most plot developments. Eleanor gets meaningful internal conflicts in season 3, and in season 4,
I did a bad job of being in charge of my own life, and now I'm supposed to be in charge of everyone else's life? I cannot do this.
just to name a few examples. The other characters aren't so lucky. The lack of time and slice of life affects some characters worse than others. Out of everyone else, only Janet and Tahani get something to push their characters forward through the seasons.
I'm luggage.
After Janet's relationship with Jason in season 1, and breakup, if you can call it that, she becomes less robotic and learns how to deal with emotion throughout the show.
Yeah, we got married, and then after we got married, we got tacos!
Wow! Wow, that's crazy!
Her arc is super cute from start to finish. Tahani can be a bit one note.
Are you poor? Here's $5,000 for a new stroller.
I mean, it's one banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10?
But at least she has the most straightforward progression out of the human side characters. She gets a wafer-thin piece of character growth in each season, and reaches a neat conclusion by the end.
I spent most of my life pretending to help people. If I were an architect, I could do it for real. Let me at least try.
But even an ending as cool as hers could have used more time to develop. And then we get to Jason, and he really doesn't change all that much. I get that his role is to be the village idiot who sometimes says something profound and helpful.
I know this sounds crazy, but I think we're in the bad place.
Jason figured it out? Jason?
But being dumb is his most prominent character trait on display.
Hi there. Do you have something shiny Jason can play with?
And trust me, I've seen the essays. I get it. But his most valuable contribution is to push the development of another character. He really doesn't get that much to do, and the things he does get quickly turn into the usual,
I'm Jason Mendoza.
I don't think Jason is a bad character, but he's another example of why the pacing starts to be a problem. Because when you have interactions like this,
I don't want to go to the bad place. It's scary, like the movie Ratatouille.
I'm scared too. But we can't just abandon our friends and let them take the fall for us.
and some of his more interesting plot lines later, you can see there's something there. There just isn't enough time dedicated to giving him more to work with. But there's always time for a funny Jason line. And then there's the final character, arguably one of the most important characters in the show, Chidi. Out of everyone, he gets hit the hardest by the reboots and fast pacing. He's really important in the first two seasons as the morally best character that teaches everyone to become better. And he's a well-rounded character, if not a little annoying.
That's what's so great about the trolley problem, is that there is no right answer.
It's by design, since he's supposed to be annoying. He has good moments with the others, and he's fun as a straight man.
Dr. Chidi, my daddy needed a heart transplant. Did you save his life? He was working, then a really bad man ran him over with the trolley.
Oh, come on!
And when others have to be the straight man for him. But season 3 is when Chidi stops being an actual character. While he still has some good moments,
This broke me. The dot over the I.
season 3 doubles down on his most basic character traits: indecisiveness, philosophy, and romance. Most of his screen time is dedicated to one of those three things. By this point, there's too much going on to give him time for anything else. And in season 4, he gets reset again. The show keeps taking the football away from him. He's not relevant for most of season 4, but by the halfway point, he becomes the most important human in the universe. That's not even a joke. This about sums up Chidi's role in the last stretch of the show.
You put the lime in the coconut and drink 'em both up. You put the lime in the coconut and drink 'em both.
Healer's down!
Out of mana!
And when he wakes up, he gets 800 seasons worth of development jacked into him like Neo. Look out, universe, you're not dealing with the average Chidi anymore. This is what we call Super Chidi.
Hi, shut up. I'm confident now.
But this new development feels more hollow than it should be. We didn't get a chance to see this character's journey. We got the Wikipedia summary. Due to the urgency of the season, it makes sense to speedrun his development, but slowing down earlier in the show would have helped make this moment as impactful as the show thinks it is. If he had more time, we could have had a more natural growth into confident Chidi, instead of doing, "It's not like I like you or anything, Eleanor," Baka, twice. And this doesn't even get into the relationships themselves. Chidi and Eleanor are the main romance of the show, and while the relationship is great on paper, the pacing really hurts them through the course of the show. On one hand, it's pretty creative. It's not exactly a linear relationship where development progresses from point A to point B in a normal way. It's not the first of its kind, but it's pretty cool when done right. The irony.
Hello, sweetie.
But skipping around like this is a double-edged sword. Another thing you notice watching The Good Place is how it uses time skips, montages, and clip shows to compress large amounts of time and get the audience and characters caught up quickly. It's pretty funny the first time.
This is your soulmate, Glenn. This is your soulmate, Tahani. This is your soulmate, a golden retriever.
And it's pretty cute the second time, but it keeps happening. It's another band-aid fix to the lightning fast pacing. The show needs to compress a lot of information in a short amount of time in order to move on to the next idea. It's one of the issues that hurt Chidi's character growth. And this is the main source of relationship development for Eleanor and Chidi. The most we actually get to see it grow naturally is in season 1. But from season 2 and on, the show gives us snapshots about different stages of their relationship.
You are unbelievable! I don't know what I did to deserve you.
Through each version of The Good Place. This is a good way of laying out the groundwork for their relationship, but it's a shortcut. It's not a substitute for genuine development. The story has to keep moving, and because we're told about each stage of their relationship in such a fractured way, it's hard to appreciate what growth there is. It's not that hard to side with Chidi when he's confused about his relationship with Eleanor, both times. He didn't get much of a chance to experience their friendship grow into a romance, and neither did we. The most we get is another Wikipedia summary about 800 different lifetimes. And because we only get the bullet points, it feels rushed when they get together, and made worse when they split up almost immediately after.
You need to erase my memory and reboot me.
We don't get a lot of time to see the growth of this relationship, and we don't get a lot of time to see them be in a relationship. The only times they actually get to be a couple are near the end of season 3 and near the end of season 4. Not only do they have to split their screen time with the plot and other characters, but by the time they get together in season 3, Chidi leaves Eleanor to get rebooted, and in season 4, Chidi leaves Eleanor to become space dust. The show moves too fast to give these two any more than a few scenes together. Season 3 and 4 end on this emotional note for both characters, and by God, I wish we could feel as invested in this relationship as they did. I remember watching this when it aired, and I wasn't emotional because of their relationship. I was sad because poor Eleanor was being left all alone. Again. The reason for this spiel isn't because the romance is bad. I've talked about bad romances before, and Eleanor and Chidi isn't one of them. There's potential there, and you can see it come through during many times either in the show or during the 800 reboots. A lot of their interactions are really funny and really heartfelt. But the build up to memorable relationship moments are some of the best parts of any romance. When you see parts like this, it makes you wish you actually saw how these characters got to where they did. Not just told that it happened and moving on to the next bullet point. The idea behind their relationship is really, really good. Two people coming from completely different walks of life, growing, and helping each other become better in death is such a wonderful idea for a romance. I just wish the show would slow down and give these ideas the justice they deserve. And a lot of these issues roll over into the other main romance of the show.
Hi there. Jason and I are getting married in 10 minutes, and you're invited.
Jason and Janet get together near the end of season 1, but Jason gets rebooted, so the relationship ends. It's important for Janet's development, but the relationship is in the background for the later seasons. By the time they do get back together, problems
Can't help but notice you're making a bunch of people.
Get in the way almost immediately. I get that it makes sense for the relationship to have some issues, and it gives Jason something else to do for a change, but we didn't even get much of a chance to see them be a couple again before something swooped in to push them apart. They get through it, but the show is over before we see any more of their relationship. The relationship pacing doesn't really affect Eleanor and Janet because they're relevant throughout the show, but this isn't the case with Jason, and especially Chidi. Romance is one of the plot points that adds something new to both of the characters, but because it gets pushed back and forth through the seasons, it leaves them both in a similar place to their season 1 selves. Jason is treated as a joke throughout the show.
We have Jason, who can... and marching us.
So it's not as bad in his case, but it leaves Chidi with not much to do besides be neurotic and talk about philosophy. For someone who goes on to be the savior of humanity, he really gets shafted. And the thing is, the writers are more than capable of writing great relationships. Even if you ignore past sitcoms, look at Eleanor and Michael. They get a ton of screen time together in every season and have a natural progression from enemies to friends. It's not romantic, but writing a great romantic relationship isn't that different from writing a great friendship.
You think you can't do this? Eleanor, you're the only one who can do this.
And you see similar trends in the other relationships. Eleanor and Tahani, Janet and Michael, and even Jason and Chidi get fantastic moments that add more to their character besides surface level personality quirks. But it's like I keep saying, there's a lot going on, and as soon as we get these wonderful character moments, we have to move on to something else right away. Alright, I know the past few minutes have been more critical of the show, but I've been doing my best to avoid calling any part of the show bad. because I don't think the writing is bad by any means. You can make arguments that the show does a lot of telling and not enough showing, that the resolutions are really contrived, or that character arcs are rushed, and I'd agree with most of that. But I still think those problems are a symptom of the show's fast pacing. When you look at The Good Place in its entirety, there's not a lot inherently wrong with the show. The characters are written pretty well. The relationships make sense and evolve in organic ways. The plot transitions in a logical way, and each resolution makes sense. If anything, it's a testament to the writing strength that the show works with its limited time. The show just needed to slow the fork down sometimes. It's cool how Tahani ends up becoming the first human to design neighborhoods. I like that the real Good Place wasn't free from problems. And I like that a trash bag and walking turtleneck were able to come together and find solace in one another. But the journey between each plot point and character moment is just as important as where they end up by the end. And honestly, the fact that the show's biggest flaw basically boils down to,
Please, sir. I want some more.
speaks volumes to its quality. And for every part where The Good Place falters, there's another where it knocks it out of the park. Eleanor and Michael's arcs were a joy to watch the first time and just as fun to watch again. Many of the side characters are super unique and super memorable. A lot of the jokes are still funny the second time around. Even though this has been kind of long already, there's a lot I didn't cover here. It's okay that a fantastic show isn't perfect. The Good Place is adored by critics and fans because there's a lot to love about the show. It wasn't just another copy-paste Michael Schur sitcom. It took the characters and humor of those sitcoms, but combined it with a creative story to create something unique. And it's only a matter of time until a show comes along that takes what worked in The Good Place and creates something even better. It could come from Mr. Schur himself, or someone else entirely. We'll just have to wait and see.